Caitlin Clark.
Unlimited range, I think is, I know you said, oh, first thing. Okay, it's not a word.
Oh, no,
I was
no,
doing
first
one
thing.
word.
No, first thing.
No, I think she has transcended. I mean, you think about that Midwest, fall in love, whatever. You think about what Iowa had, sellout crowds, things like that. It transcended to other areas as a result of her ability to connect with people.
You know, Candace Parker just said Caitlin Clark has transcended the game. And if you watch her body language, how she leans forward, that's not just politeness. That's genuine, undeniable respect. Coming from a 3-time WNBA MVP and 2-time champion like Candace Parker, that truly means something. Especially because, for the past year, we've watched legends in women's basketball really struggle with this exact conversation. Some have beautifully embraced Caitlin Clark's incredible impact, while others have fought against it with everything they have.
That leads back to where the game is now in terms of shooting and her taking that and making it better. And Steph Curry talks about it all the time, like Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, those were the dudes. And Steph has taken that and has added to his craft. And I think, you know, I know Diana Taurasi's on this list. I think Caitlin Clark has done that because Diana was kind of that first one that had that range where when she walked in the parking lot, you had to guard her.
Yeah.
We'll speak to Diana.
Yeah, see, I remember, and what's crazy is I was so mad that Diana was hating on Caitlin because I was a big Diana Taurasi fan through college.
So, there it is, the comparison everyone's been dancing around. Diana Taurasi absolutely owned that deep-range shot first, dominating with it for years. And what Caitlin Clark did was take that exact blueprint and brilliantly expand upon it. And frankly, that's just how greatness truly works in sports. You don't diminish the original pioneer by simply acknowledging the evolution. Think about it. Steph Curry didn't erase Reggie Miller's incredible legacy when he started launching from half court. He built directly on it. But here's what makes Candace Parker's perspective incredibly refreshing. She played against Diana for years. She knows exactly how revolutionary that range was when Diana first entered the league. Yet she's less willing to say out loud what the numbers have been screaming all season long. Caitlin Clark's impact on attendance, viewership, and overall revenue has been absolutely unprecedented. Those Iowa sellout crowds weren't a fluke. The Fever's road games drawing significantly bigger crowds than even home games in some cities, that wasn't an accident. This is all measurable, thoroughly documented, and utterly undeniable impact. And on that note, let's actually dig into what this means.
It was, I should have had it saved where this, okay, here we go. We right here. Let's get to this part. I think it's everybody's perspective on this WNBA, CBA is different because at this point, us fans, we just want something signed. We just want to see Caitlin hoop at this point. You know what I mean? I think the players, the owners, and then the retired players like a Candace Parker probably has her own different type of views on the situation as well. So let's see what she had to say about that.
You're getting a little spicy out here in the streets. Was it Nafisha? Nafisha went in on the commissioner. The CBA is set to expire soon. People are thinking the lockout may be looming.
Now, this is truly where things get super interesting. Pay very close attention to what Candace Parker just said about the ongoing CBA negotiations. Because while most fans are simply sitting here excitedly wanting to see Caitlin Clark just play basketball, there's a massive, high-stakes negotiation happening quietly behind the scenes right now that could potentially shut down the entire The current collective bargaining agreement is set to expire right after the 2025 season, and the tension isn't just about player salaries, even though that's the big headline everyone tends to focus on. No, it's about the fundamental, underlying economics of the entire league. When Caitlin Clark's rookie salary is a mere $76,000, yet she's directly driving literally millions in brand new revenue, something clearly just doesn't add up. And when coaches are consistently making multiple times what the league's absolute best players earn, well, the math just gets even stranger, doesn't it?
Stars like Caitlin Clark only making $75K. What is your thought process? Because you were, obviously Lisa and them started it. You had a heavy influence on carrying it to where it is today. And now, I feel lockouts only hurt us. Lockouts only hurt players. What are your thoughts on?
There's the owners a little bit too.
But sometimes
You see that? You see that? See, you know, the male players have no problem admitting the lockout really hurts the players. Deja Kelly, I've listed a bunch of middle of the pack and fringe WNBA players who said they do not want this happening. It affects the players the most. We heard Charles Barkley say this. Now we're hearing Matt Barnes say this. The males have no problem letting them know. You might want to be careful with this lockout thing because it's going to affect you more.
And that brings us to the question that should absolutely be front and center in every single CBA negotiation session. If the league genuinely can't afford to pay its players over $1 million, then how are they consistently finding the money to pay coaches 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times that amount? Candace Parker just bravely said what every player has been thinking privately, but very few have been willing to say publicly. Just look at the hard numbers. Teresa Weatherspoon, for example, was hired by the Chicago Sky with a reported salary soaring over $500,000. Stephanie White left the Connecticut Sun to coach the Indiana Fever for a deal reportedly worth over $700,000. Meanwhile, the WNBA's Supermax contract for players, the absolute maximum a top player can earn, tops out at just $241,000. That means the league's highest-paid players make less than half of what multiple coaches are earning. And before anyone jumps in with the coaches have more experience argument, let's be crystal clear about what we're truly discussing here. We're talking about a league where the top 5 players generate the overwhelming majority of fan interest, merchandise sales, and critical media attention. We're talking about athletes whose individual brands drive massive sponsorship deals that absolutely dwarf their playing salaries. The market has already definitively spoken about their true value. The league's outdated salary structure just simply hasn't caught up to that reality.
The billionaires.
times
It's done right.
no, but you also got to think sometimes this is just
Lockouts for y'all
2, or actually I was in 1.
90,
Two.
98 and
10. Was it 10 or 9? What year was it?
no, it was 11, right?
11.
11.
What are your thoughts on kind of what's moving forward for this league and where you hope it continues to grow to?
Well, obviously, like, people respect people with zeros at the end of their checks. Like, let's just be honest. Like, there's respect element of things when you walk into a room if you have zeros behind your check. And so I feel like in order for the WNBA to be reputable.
And to be perfectly honest, this is the part that consistently doesn't get nearly enough attention in the larger CBA discussion, the profound ripple effects of those publicly known salaries. When major companies approach WNBA players for lucrative endorsement deals, they are instinctively looking at those playing contracts as a crucial baseline for their negotiation. If your playing salary is a mere $76,000, brands will naturally assume that's your general market value. They're not actively thinking about your massive social media following, your undeniable impact on TV ratings, or the incredible fact that you might have more Instagram followers than some NBA players making $20 million a year. Take Paige Bueckers, for example. She had over 1 million followers before she even played a single professional game. When she eventually enters the WNBA draft, she'll likely sign a rookie contract worth roughly the same as Caitlin Clark's. And every single brand negotiation she has will regrettably start from that same low number as a reference point. Meanwhile, Jalen Suggs, who was drafted the same year Paige would have been if she'd left early, signed a 4-year, $23 million contract with the Orlando Magic. The endorsement deals he gets offered naturally start from that significantly higher baseline. The transparency that social media so readily provides truly cuts both ways. Yes, it brilliantly shows that WNBA players command massive followings and engagement, but it also makes those glaring salary disparities utterly impossible to ignore for anyone paying attention.
Did have to have zeros behind your check. And with that being said, number of zeros behind your check. And that has crossed WNBA off the list for a number of years just because of that. That's been the running joke in comments and things like that. Where the WNBA now, it's undeniable. Where sports in general are now, it's undeniable. But for so long, I think it's been that, like, wait. And as women, it's like in this country, it's always wait.
Yeah.
It's always, okay, just, but now it's like with social media, with NIL. So if you're telling me you can't pay players over $1 million, but you're giving coaches, I've never heard of a league where the coach is paid more than the best player. I have never, And please correct me if I'm wrong.
And that brings us directly to the lockout conversation that's making absolutely everyone nervous right now. Matt Barnes asked the question directly, and back in December 2024, Z.A. Wilson's agent made serious headlines when she suggested that players might actually be willing to sit out the entire season if their demands aren't met. Charles Barkley even went on record saying a lockout would devastate the players far more than the owners, and you know what? He's right, at least in the short term. Here's the blunt reality that nobody truly wants to say out loud. The WNBA had its monumental breakthrough year in 2024, largely because of one single player, Caitlin Clark. She drove an astonishing 48% increase in average attendance. Games she played and averaged 16,000 fans, while games without her averaged just 9,000. ESPN's most watched WNBA game ever, the Fever vs. Aces in September 2024, drew a staggering 2.5 million viewers. The league's previous record was a distant 1.4 million. If there's a lockout in 2026, that incredible momentum doesn't just pause, it completely reverses. The casual fans who started watching because of Caitlin won't just sit around patiently waiting for the league to come back, they'll move on to other things. The sports media ecosystem that finally started covering women's basketball regularly won't hold that space open. They'll quickly fill it with something else entirely.
Player on the team is going to make more than the head coach. So,
But people weren't going to the games, y'all. Like, I don't know. I get it.
with all of these owners that are saying, or the WNBA in general that's saying we can't play players that, then how are you finding this for coaches is what would be my first question in the CBA negotiation.
That is a fit. I believe that is a fair question. That is most certainly a fair question. If the players can't get no money, how are the coaches getting all this money? That's a fair question. That's a fair question.
But
So, here's what truly makes Candace Parker's perspective throughout this entire conversation so incredibly valuable. She's not just a former player, she's someone who deeply understands both sides of this complex equation. She actually played through the last CBA negotiation, so she knows firsthand what it's like to fight tooth and nail for better conditions, while also realistically understanding the underlying business realities of the league. And now, she's working in media, which gives her a crucial vantage point into how the league is covered and genuinely perceived by the public. When she talks about needing those extra zeros behind players' checks for genuine respect, she's speaking from profound personal experience. When she openly questions how coaches are consistently getting paid significantly more than star players, she's courageously asking the very question that exposes the fundamental contradiction in the league's current economic argument. And when she honestly acknowledges that lockouts almost always hurt the players far more than the owners, she's being brutally honest about the inherent power dynamics that every union inevitably faces. The WNBA Players Association boldly opted out of the current CBA back in October 2024, which is what officially started this whole negotiation process. Their critical demands include significantly higher salaries, much better travel conditions, improved maternity benefits, and a larger, fairer share of the league's rapidly growing revenue. The owners, on the other hand, have repeatedly pointed to the league's reported financial losses as a reason for extreme caution. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has stated that the league has lost money in most years of its existence, though it's important to note she hasn't released any detailed financial statements to verify those specific claims. But here's precisely where Candace Parker's coach salary question becomes absolutely crucial. If the league is genuinely losing money, then why are coaching salaries clearly increasing? Why are expansion fees being set at a staggering $50 million per team? If the business model is truly fundamentally broken, then why did Golden State pay $50 million for a WNBA franchise in May? And why is Toronto paying the exact same amount for a team starting in 20? That's a massive $100 million in expansion fees in just 2 years alone. So, where exactly is all that money going? The players see those substantial expansion fees, they see the new media rights deal that reportedly tripled the league's annual television revenue starting in 20. They see sold-out arenas and record-breaking merchandise sales, and then they're inexplicably told that the league simply can't afford to pay them more. That right there is the gaping disconnect driving these incredibly tense negotiations. Caitlin Clark's situation makes it even more complicated and urgent. She's generating unprecedented revenue and viewership while simultaneously making a rookie salary that doesn't even come close to covering a modest apartment in Indianapolis without roommates. Her jersey became the fastest-selling WNBA jersey in the entire league's history. Her games drove local television ratings up over 400% in some key markets. And her rookie contract still pays her a mere cent. The optics of that are absolutely brutal, and they are certainly not lost on anyone, including the casual fans who have only just started paying attention. When people who don't normally follow the WNBA see those stark numbers, their reaction isn't, well, the league has financial constraints. No, their reaction is a resounding, that's exploitation. Now, is it actually exploitation? That's a much more complicated question involving intricate revenue sharing models, overall league economics, and long-term sustainability. But perception, my friends, perception truly matters. And right now, the overwhelming perception is that the WNBA is grossly underpaying its players, while somehow magically finding money for absolutely everything else. The coach salary question Candace Parker so eloquently raised is the perfect example of this imbalance. Nobody is arguing that coaches don't deserve good salaries, but when your head coach makes 3 times what your very best player makes, you are undeniably sending a very clear message about who you truly value. And that message is being received loud and clear by players, by loyal fans, and by potential sponsors alike. This is precisely why the CBA negotiation matters so incredibly much. It's not just about the raw numbers in the contract, it's about whether the league's entire economic structure accurately reflects the current, booming reality of women's basketball. The sport itself has changed drastically. The audience has changed. The revenue potential has changed dramatically. The big question now is whether the business model will finally change to match. And if it doesn't, if we ultimately end up with a devastating lockout because the two sides simply cannot find common ground, then everything that was so carefully built in 2024 gets put at immediate risk. The incredible momentum, the millions of new fans, the unprecedented media attention, the cultural relevance, all of it becomes incredibly vulnerable. So when Candace Parker says she's grateful for social media and its transparency, she's talking about far more than just player salary. She's talking about accountability. The numbers simply don't lie. The attendance figures, the television ratings, the merchandise sales, the social media engagement, it's all meticulously documented, it's all completely public, and it's all utterly undeniable. The league simply cannot hide behind vague claims about financial losses when the irrefutable evidence of massive growth is literally everywhere you look. That's what makes this particular CBA negotiation so profoundly different from all previous ones. The players now have leverage they've never possessed before. They have overwhelming public support. They have undeniable, tangible evidence of their immense value. And they have a generational star in Caitlin Clark, whose impact is so glaringly obvious that even people who have never watched women's basketball before can vividly see it. The crucial question now is whether that leverage is truly whether the owners will finally recognize that the old, outdated economic model simply doesn't fit this vibrant new reality. Whether both sides can finally find a deal that fairly rewards the players while simultaneously maintaining the league's long-term stability. Because if they can't, if we end up with a lockout that tragically derails all this hard-won momentum, everyone loses. The players, the owners, the passionate fans, and the sport itself. So drop a comment below. Do you genuinely think the players should hold firm and risk a lockout, or should they take whatever deal they can get right now to keep this incredible momentum going? Because this monumental decision is going to define the WNBA's future for the next decade. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're going to be covering every single development in these negotiations as they happen.